All right. Hope y'all are having a great weekend and looking forward to another good week here, folks. Couple things to go through today. We're going to go through Bitcoin. We're going to go through the miners. I'll use Mara for that. We'll go through traditional financial markets, the dollar yields, and then altcoins using others. First thing I kind of want to talk about was why the news on Friday of the ETF being delayed is good, and what I was actually hoping to see, given the structure of this market. Right now, we're looking at the Bitcoin weekly chart, and in this chart, you've seen me present since the summer, since I started doing these videos. And essentially kind of calling for whatever the major news catalyst is going to be. And I'm assuming that's ETFs, but that's not a guarantee, right? There's no guarantee that the ETFs are going to get approved. The Bloomberg analysts have it at about 90% before sometime in mid-January, I believe. But nonetheless, the charts tell us that there's a major news catalyst on the horizon. And the earliest that that I wanted to see, or was kind of calling to see this news, was in the 40s, the low 40s, more realistically somewhere in the all-time high region. And why do I say that, right? Well, in the context of what Elliott Wave sought to describe was, waves of emotion in certain segments of the market. And a lot of that emotion is validated by the news that comes behind it. And typically the news is most bullish as you approach the climax of important wave structures within the cycle. What's an example of that? Well, an example of that is this section of the market back here in January 2020, where the price of Bitcoin, pretty much doubled, right? Doubled after it broke out of this massive accumulation range. And then you got the announcement of Tesla buying Bitcoin right as we were approaching this third wave of the macro three. Sorry for all the drawings there. I'll get rid of those. But the point being that news, that catalyst was much later as expansion was well underway. And we are just starting expansion in the context of this macro accumulation range that was broken out of. And so, if we had seen approvals on Friday, I honestly would have to lower my expectation of where this market, in my opinion, again, I'm not a financial advisor. This is just speculation. Don't take this as financial advice. Do your own research. But I'd have to lower these expectations because I'm expecting to hear and the news to be the most bullish as you get closer to the end of the move, right? And I can most certainly see the ETFs being approved somewhere around here, good for a good couple week pop, and then nasty retracement. And then the halvening is the last narrative that potentially takes us to all-time highs well before the halvening. But again, a narrative out there to justify the market purchasing coins at higher prices. So with that, we're going to move to the low time frame. And again, folks, low time frame, is more of a guess than anything. I was posting on Twitter that on Wednesday I did a video in this area, in this region here, after this impulse, looking for some type of consolidation. Right, I wasn't looking for it to come down this low, but that was one of the lower probability outcomes I'd highlighted. And now we're kind of left with a structure that really needs to get moving if this is indeed, in this smaller count within this next impulse that I'm calling for. It really needs to move. It really needs to move. Otherwise, we could be in for me mislabeling this count and, off of this 5, A, B, and then one more leg down, maybe 34. Mid 34, something like that. I don't see it getting too much lower than than that region prior to starting the next impulse. So looking at a few alternatives, back here we had the 1 and the 2, and this 2 kind of drifted down, started looking bad again, and then it popped, right? So that's most certainly an option here before a pop. Like I said, that ABC could also be an option. And then third option, we've got this trend line here. The longer that trend line kind of gets supported, the more likely it is to get violated. So you could get a violation here and then, start working your way up. So those are the three ways I'm looking at it short term. But in all honesty, I'm more concerned about the high time frame and just kind of speculating on the short term price action that way. Next, now the miners are giving me much more of a signal than anything. And what's that signal? The signal on the miners, to me, is very indicative of major expansion coming next for these miners, right? I'm zooming out. I've got my daily chart up of Mara, and they all kind of look the same to me, right? They all look the same to me, where you've got, going back to March 20, you had a major impulse, and then big retracement. It's over, right? 2, and then third, into 4, and then 5. And so what I see now are a lot of similarities. And let me zoom in on the daily chart and kind of explain why I'm favoring expansion with these miners starting now, major expansion starting now. You got this kind of channel accumulation, flag structure, whatever you want to call it. You had a bottom out in October, and these things have just been kind of consolidating, broke out of this flagging type of structure. You got a retest, and now you're in the cloud. And last week we had, let me just throw the weekly chart up here. All right, weekly chart. We had our highest close on Mara since September 5th, our highest weekly close, folks. I mean, that's substantial. And on the weekly, we're firmly in the clouds with a really strong reaction, right? I love seeing these types of reactions where an attempt to fall out of the cloud, and that's exactly where it found buyers, found support. So this is very indicative to me of the pre-move, busting out of here, starting its next impulse. Am expecting major movement in the miners to come next. All right, let's keep it rolling. S&P, SPY. Let's see here. SPY, where are you? All right. Love when this happens. Love when this happens. Not a big deal, folks. We roll with the punches. Just pull up my SPY chart, put it in daily format. And what are we seeing here? What are we seeing? If you kind of go back to last weekend's video, what did I talk about? I talked about the power in this move and the fact that it just didn't look like it was going to give people entries, substantial corrections that they're looking for, right? And that's kind of what we got, with a huge gap up Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, or gap up, was it Tuesday? Whatever. But just look at this consolidation, right? Look at this consolidation. Closing the week at the highs, it just tells me it has more. This has more left. I could see it getting to the 460 region prior to any type of correction, and then I'm looking for all-time highs before the end of the year. This is just a very powerful chart to me, a powerful trend, and that's how I'm reading it. So far, this 2 that I'd marked looks to be holding, right? We talked about that shallow type of correction. Everyone's looking for, remember I talked about, everyone's looking at the same thing, looking for this inverse head and shoulders, right? So let's get a good correction. Everyone can buy back in. Markets just don't work that way. You know, when everyone's looking for something, you're typically not going to get it. And this type of market movement just induces folks to participate in uncomfortable positions. And so beautiful tracking of this, that count. Really like seeing that. Now I've got the weekly chart of up the Nasdaq, which is also supportive of more movement to the upside prior to any type of meaningful correction. And why do I say that, right? We just broke out of, I mean, if you think of, I mean, just think of this thing as like a massive bull flag, right? You just broke out of it. Typically speaking, in bullish continuation patterns, you know, you're just getting started. And where's any support of that? Well, look at this MACD on the weekly, right? We don't even have a cross yet. And look, you know, look back here, right? You know, when you started to see crosses, and these are just beginnings of extensions that continue to the upside. And so my bias here remains further upside. You know, all-time high, I believe, is the next move prior to the end of the year. Before I'm looking for any type of correction. I could be wrong, but again, that's just the way that's what the charts are telling me right now. All right, next we've got the dollar. The dollar is tracking exactly how we've been tracking it, right? Off of this gravestone doji that you all have been hearing me talk about exhaustively back here. Late September, we got the confirmation on that. You know, with this dump below 106, I talked about this retesting the underside of this. This is just as a retest, looking for failure, and that's what we got. We got big movement down last week. Exactly what you want to see. Doesn't mean it's just going to keep going down in a straight line, right? Nothing moves in a straight line. You can most certainly get some consolidation, right, type movements all the way down. Things aren't going to move, again, like I just said, in a straight line. So dollar looking very favorable in terms of its relationship historically with risk assets. All right, what do I have next? I've got yields. The 10-year yield is up right now, and we've been tracking this. And I've been talking a lot about this divergence, higher highs. Right now, I've got MACD up. You see a lower high on the MACD, and we just got a bearish crossover. Last time we got this bearish crossover, the move continued to the downside, right? And so does that mean that's going to happen now? No. This is a bullish ascending triangle. Okay. I talked about this breakout could get a back test and go. But what's favoring the probability for me of even a consolidation here, breakdown, and then resumption down is what the momentum is telling us. And so just got our first red histogram. And so in my mind, this move is just getting started on yields. Excuse me. And my base case, the probabilities for me are a reversal and a resumption further down. Looking at gold, it did have one of you mentioned you thought this was a distribution, and so I'm just going to zoom out and why I don't think this is distributive, right? I'm looking at the context. Let me throw this up in monthly. I'm looking at the context of gold, you know, through this lens, right? I have a very clear uptrend, right? Very clear uptrend. And we've got confluence. And so, and I've got a rectangle kind of consolidation structure after we got a breakout here. So my bias has to remain, it just has to remain at some point, the next logical area to be tested is that region, that top trend line. This is from a pure, like if I'm going to put this up in a 15-minute chart, right? and I'm trying to trade something on a 15-minute chart, that's where I'm looking for price to eventually arrive, whenever that is. And so let's go back down to the weekly on gold, and I just continue to view this as a very bullish type of consolidation. We're in the sign of strength area, right? That this SOS region. What did I do with that chart? I don't know what I did with it. It's okay. But you've seen me post that before in the context of an accumulation level, right? Preliminary sell-off, retest, sell-off, range high. It's all, we're back, and then boop, spring low fakes everybody out, and then you get your last point of support area right here, and this is the last point of support. And now we're in an SOS region, and I'm looking for a continuation to the upside. 30-week is up, 30-week held. This week reversed off of it, which is again a sign of strength in my book. This is one, I don't think I've presented this one in a while. This is an aggregate of the money supplies of the currencies of the world, global currencies, okay? And this is a monthly chart of the M2 supplies of all these aggregate currencies. And folks, this is looking very, very similar to what it looked like prior to 2020, when the global money supply increased by 40%, right? This setup is very, very similar, right? You had this flagging type structure, broke out, fake breakout, and then consolidation, and then it went. And now we're seeing, again, flagging type structure, breakout, fake out above, consolidation in this ascending triangle, and it looks like it wants to go. I mean, from a technical perspective, can you do technical analysis on global money supply? I have no idea. Am I using this to inform anything that I'm doing? No. It's just an interesting coincidence, right? It's an interesting coincidence that risk assets are catching a bid. In this month, right? This month, look at that candle on global money supply. So that just tells me the printers are on, and potentially you've got the potential for that to continue. So very, very interesting indeed. Last but not least, others. So what are we seeing here with others? Not seeing much. We're just seeing some healthy consolidation. Very healthy consolidation, much like we saw back in the summer of 2020 after it broke out, right? A few week consolidation, and then it took its next leg up. I don't know if we're going to get a few week consolidation, a few days, few months. I have no idea. All I know is that the trend is very bullish in terms of this breakout, and my assumption is that we're at the beginning of this move in the altcoins, and to look for continuation to the upside. And the next target would be all-time highs on others. That's what I'm looking at. So I hope that was informative. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I look forward to doing another update. May not do one next weekend. I've got some family in town, but we'll see if I can break away. Otherwise, take care as usual.